Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video where I am going to be redrawing more of these Halloween artist trading cards that I made for spooky season last year and making them into digital art. That way I can make a real deck of 52 playing cards. So let's get right into this. Before I begin, be sure to like and subscribe, and let's transform these. So far, I've created 7 of these and redrawn them digitally, and here they are. We've got the pumpkin, sweet tooth, the decay card, the witch card. We've also got the spider, the owl, and finally the bat cat. So I'm going to be doing 4 more today. First, I'm finding the video of all of the finished cards, and I'm taking a screenshot of my drawings. That way I have something to begin with and something to trace over for my digital art. And now it's time to go in and adjust this first image a little bit. And the first card for the day is the Dinosaur card. So of course I'm starting out with my outlines like usual, and I'm just going ahead and using this calligraphy pen and script to go ahead and just outline everything. I'm using this pen because it adjusts with your hand pressure, so I can make the lines thicker when I press down harder and thinner when I use a little bit lighter pressure. So I really like this. It just gives a lot of style to my art and makes it a little more like it would be if it was hand drawn, since we flex with how we draw, with how much pressure we put on our paper. So I really felt like this was a good choice to use for these cards, and now I'm just going ahead and outlining everything all over this dinosaur card. There wasn't much that I wanted to change for this one. I really liked the style and the feel of it. I did zoom the picture in a little bit more, just that way the dinosaur would be a little bit more in focus, but other than that I left it exactly the same. But a big part of why I've really liked to redraw these cards is because I can adjust all of those imperfections that I've seen in them before, and obviously I'm still going to look at them afterwards and see things that could be better, but I think it's going to be really cool to see the improvement of a year's worth of work in these drawings because I'm redoing them a year apart. So I really like the idea that I can adjust these things. So then I removed the background, and now it's time for the fun part, which is the color, but this one's mostly black and white with just tones of gray in between, so it's not really anything exciting at the moment. I'm just going ahead and making sure that everything looks three-dimensional, and I'm going ahead in with my darkest color first and putting that everywhere where it needs shading, and then I'm going in with my second darkest color and putting that basically right next to the darkest colors. And finally I took a lightest color and went ahead and put that anywhere else and pretty much everywhere else that I felt like needed extra shading to really bring this drawing to life. It's kind of ironic that I say to life because it's a skeleton of dinosaurs, so not really alive. But anyway, then I went ahead and continued just filling in all of those shadows to really make it look three-dimensional. One thing that was hard about drawing these cards was I had the original cards right next to them, and I had it out to kind of reference what it looked like compared to the digital, and then it was hard not to want to do exactly what I did with the traditional art when this time I'm trying to make more improvements and trying to do what I've learned and not what I used to do. So it was kind of limiting to have the card available next to me, because then I was focusing on how to make it look like that card instead of just focusing on how to put my new style and how I do things now into the card. So I tried to ignore the original card as much as possible, but also keep it the same, because I obviously want them to look like they were inspired by the original cards, but I don't want to be limited by the same techniques that I used to know, and now I know a lot more a year away. So I'm trying to balance that out. But now I'm going ahead and doing the background for this one, which I love this green yellow background. I think it's so cool. And of course putting in dinosaur, and here's the traditional card versus the digital art, which I think is so cool to see the difference. And you can really see some of that growth that I'm talking about just in the things that I've learned and in the different style, but they also look very similar with minor improvements. So I really like this one. But now it's time for the next card of the day, which is the Lollipop Skull, or as one of you called it last year, the Scully-Pop, which I thought was genius. I really like this card too, and I want to keep it mostly the same, but now with digital art, I have the power of duplicating things and using the symmetry tool, which just makes everything so much neater and so much nicer, and just, it's, you know, something you can't really do that well with your own hand. When your tablet can just kind of make things all symmetrical for you, it's so much easier and so much better. So that was a really good tool to use for this one, but my main goal for this was just to make it look more like candy. I really want it to look kind of like a crystal looking lollipop. So that was my goal. I also wanted to neaten up the bow design a little bit more and make it just a little bit neater and more symmetrical as well. So I definitely utilized the symmetry tool for this one. And then it was time to go in with some shading lines. I like to incorporate this. It's just part of my style. And now it's time to start mapping out all of the colors. I kind of struggled with the eyes a little bit because I wanted them to look like candy, but I still wanted them to look like they were concaved. So that way I had some dimension and shading in there and it looked different from the rest of the drawing. So it took me a few tries to edit that and get the right colors in. But now it's time to work on everything else for the skull. So what I did for this was took an airbrush and kind of just brushed the shadows everywhere first. I always like to start with the shading. It just maps everything out for me mentally. And then after that, it was time to just start adding in a whole bunch of colors. I kind of like the tie-dye effect of the original card, so I was trying to keep that in there as well, but I incorporated some of the blue background to make it look like the lollipop was a little bit translucent and see-through. I hope that's what it did. That was the goal. And then I just kept adding in more colors, and then I duplicated that to make it even more vibrant, which I think helped a lot and made it pop a lot more. And then I added in some white to make it look like reflective and like candy. And this was a really fun thing that I did. I added in sparkles, but then I made it a lower opacity so that it looked like maybe there were layers of sparkle, like how candy is made up of kind of like layers of candy. So I feel like that was a cool touch that helped the design a lot too. But then after that, it was time to work on the wrapper. This was also challenging since I wanted the wrapper to be see-through, so I utilized a lot of white highlights, some soft and some really harsh, which was the scariest part of this drawing because I had to use white lines to draw all over my original image, which is really scary, but it was worth it and it made it look like it was wrapped up in a wrapper, which was the whole point. Then I just shaded the stick a little bit, and then it was time to work on the bow, which I kept this cute pink color and added in a lot of shading just to make it look a little more dimensional, and I used the symmetry tool for this as well. Just makes life so much easier. And then I added in some shading, and of course I had to add in sparkles because you know I just love sparkles and I have to add sparkles to everything that I do. And then it was time to work on the background. I've been loving the stripes, as you can tell, so I put in some blue stripes for this one and then named it Lollipop this time because I just think that's so cute. And here's the before and here is the after, and I think it looks so much better. I love the vibrancy and the pops of color in the digital art piece, and I have also actually done a sticker of this too, so I thought it'd be fun to bring the sticker in and kind of see the difference between the sticker that I did last year as well. And I just think it's so fun to see all three renditions, but I love how this turned out and I love the new name. But now it's time for the next card, which is the skull moth, which looks like a Christmas moth because of my color choices. So this one is getting a lot of edits. I want to make a lot of differences and improvements in this one. I love the original design, but it's giving Christmas. It's giving just, it's just not right. I don't like it. So I'm trying to do different colors, and I also changed up the composition a little bit. I don't want the moth to be so skinny and front and center like that. I want it to be a little bit wider, and then I wanted to change up the angle. That way you're not just staring straight at the moth. I wanted to have a little bit more of a style and personality to it. So that's what I did. I just adjusted the image, and now I'm working on all of my outlines and then starting with some color, which I was really excited about the red on this moth. I think it's so cool, but this time we are not going to be doing a red and green color combination. Most of you last year said you didn't think that it looked like Christmas until I said that it looked like Christmas, which of course I had to put that in your heads, but I just immediately saw Christmas and then it just stayed that way forever, and it was always kind of one of my least favorite cards. Even though I loved the moth design, I just hated the background and colors that I used, and I could have changed it a little bit, probably using more colors and toning it down, but I didn't. I just left it how it was, but now it's time to give it those changes that it needs. So now it's time to actually start working on the colors, which I started with just some base colors and laying all of those down, and then I went in with some shading. So first I started on the wings, and I wanted to give them a lot of texture to kind of make them look veined like they are in real life, and then I went ahead and added some shading around the body and did the same thing to the top wings as well, and just added in a lot of veining and shading everywhere all over that. I love to use a 3-color rule, like I've said in the past, where I at least do a base color, a darker color, and a lighter color, and that's my minimum. And then if I want to add more, of course I can add more colors and do more dimension, but that's my base, and I think think it worked out really well. I especially love all of the little dots that I added all over this one. It just made it look kind of glowy, and I really like that. And then for the antenna, I decided to kind of stick with a gold color palette there. I feel like that was a really fun one. And then I did that for the moon pattern on the wings as well. And now it's time to try and figure out a different background color. And I understand why I had a Christmas moth last time, because it's really hard to find the right color, but I decided on this kind of grayish blue purple color for the background, and I think that looks way better than the green. So then it was time to decorate the background, which I did decorate it with a whole bunch of black stars and black dots everywhere just to make it look super fun. And then I added in some little yellow highlights as well everywhere. And then this one was complete, and here's the beginning Christmas moth and the end actual skull moth this time. And I think it looks so much better. It's not giving Christmas anymore, and the moth really shines against that background. So I'm so much more happy with it, and I'm loving that I got to redeem it and do it a little bit differently. And now it's time for the last card of the day, which is actually one of my favorites in contrast to the moth, but it is the Chicken Witch card, which I just think is so funny and so cute. I don't know why a chicken witch makes so much sense, but it absolutely does. And like I said, this is one of my favorite cards from last year, so I didn't want to change it very much, but I did move the chicken a little bit so it was more front and center, and I moved it up. That way I could incorporate the broom design a little bit more, because I want it to be more obvious that the chicken is on a broom in the sky, because that's just part of the humor. It makes it so much funnier and cuter. So then I went ahead and outlined everything, again using that symmetry tool when I needed to, like for this pumpkin bucket, which is also cute because, like, is the Chicken Witch trick-or-treating? Yes, obviously, I guess so. So anyway, that was a cute addition as well, and now I'm just drawing out that broom and just adding it in a little bit more, making it a little more visible. And then after that, it was finally time to go in with the colors, which I was super excited about for this one. So of course, I'm keeping the colors very similar, but I wanted to make it pop a lot more, so I used this really pretty golden orange for the chicken. And then after that, it was time for all of the shading, and I wanted this chicken to look extra fluffy, so I added in a whole bunch of little fluff patterns everywhere. And then I wanted it to look like feathers, so I added in a lot of lines and then even more fluff marks to make the chicken look extra fluffy. Another one of the reasons that I've really liked redoing these and making them into digital art is because with digital art, there are no limitations on colors. I can literally go to that color wheel and use whatever color that I want and make it up as I go. Whereas with the markers that I was using for the traditional art, I only had one set of markers at the time, so I was really limited in the color palettes that I could use, which I think played a huge role in making sure that the cards looked unified, which I really appreciated, but it also limited me a lot in the things that I could do. So this is really cool to kind of see the unlocked potential of these cards with an unlimited resources and colors that I can use with digital art. So this is super fun. I'm not sure if I like traditional art or digital art more. I think I like them both a lot for their own reasons, and I just think there's something about traditional art that you really can't do with digital art. I just think traditional art and hand-drawn things are just so special, but I also just really love the neatness and niceness of digital art. But anyway, back to the Chicken Witch. Now I'm adding in those finishing details for the Chicken Witch, adding in those beautiful stars in this night sky, and of course labeling it. And here is the before of the Chicken Witch, and here is the after. And I love the minor improvements in this card, and I think the colors pop so much more, which was the goal, and I love how it turned out. But here's another look at the Chicken Witch, which is literally one of my favorite cards of this entire thing. But let's take a look back. We did the skull moth today, which was major improvement from the Christmas moth. We changed this one to Lollipop and made it super sparkly. The dinosaur stayed pretty much the same, but zoomed in a little bit more so we could see more details, and I think they all turned out so much better and were huge improvements, and just it's so cool to see them all together. But stay tuned to see all 52 cards, and I cannot wait to transform these into an actual playing card deck. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!